Welcome to the Thriving Through podcast. Today, we're diving into the compelling journey of a consultant who stumbled into his practice by accident and transformed it into a thriving business, helping small business leaders organize, lead, grow, and profit. If you're a self-employed consultant looking to break through revenue ceilings, create better systems, or simply achieve more fulfillment in your work, you'll want to stay tuned. Ryan McKinney shares how he developed his signature breakthrough blueprint, his powerful 13th week sabbatical system, and the mindset shifts that helped him overcome the fear and feast or famine cycles that plague so many consultants. Get ready for practical advice you can implement immediately to create a consulting business that nourishes both your bank account and your soul. Let's dive in. Welcome to this week's episode of the Thriving Through podcast. Today, my guest is Ryan McKinney of McKinney Business Solutions. Ryan helps business owners organize, lead, grow, and profit. And Ryan, you have been an independent consultant for over 6 years?
That's correct.
Is that right? Okay. Well, tell me, why did you become a self-employed consultant? And you're a coach and consultant, but I want to talk specifically about sort of the consulting side.
Yeah. So, quite honestly, I came by consulting by accident a little bit. I was already coaching. I was doing life and leadership coaching to get started with. That's what got me, that was my pathway out of corporate. I really loved that light bulb moment that people have when they, have a transformation of their own. And I was honestly looking for that. Had naturally been a business owner before and loved the world of business and all that goes on there. And had been doing sort of internal consulting roles in organizations for many years in different aspects, also leading like in the seats as well. But when clients started gravitating to me for leadership, what they were really looking for was ways to get better at their business. What they saw was they needed to be a better leader to do that. Well, I looked around and saw, my roster full of clients are all small business owners. And before long, many of them were asking me, hey, this leadership stuff is awesome, but don't you know about the financials? Don't you know about marketing? Didn't you do this as a sales leader before? Can you help me with this? And there was a lot of questions that they were asking around how to do certain things. And it was at that moment that I kind of realized that my background, the last 20 to 25 years of my working experience, I had been, I'd bounced around in different areas from sales, marketing, had worked in the operations side of the business as a liaison for sales and marketing. So I understood a lot of the different languages people were speaking, and I soaked up a lot along the way. So that's kind of how I became the consulting. It's like, hey, if we asked you to do this, what would that look like for us to work together? And that's really where it started. I was like, maybe I'm onto something here. So.
And so it started very organically with your clients, coaching clients asking you for more services, and you were listening to your clients. At what point did you sort of formalize it and say, I'm really going to do some marketing, focusing more broadly on this?
Yeah, about a year and a half ago is when I said, you know what, I'd been saying there's more to this for a few years, but about a year and a half ago, I said, I want to make this into something that's a little bit more tangible for people. They were saying, well, how do we do that? And what's the process called? And they were asking questions. And I'm, again, to your point, listening. I was like, they're buying me as the provider. They're buying me as a guide to come in and support them, but they still need something tangible to hold on to. So that's when I developed my signature product, which is the Breakthrough Blueprint, and then started to develop different components within it. And I really sat back and asked myself, how did, all these other people that I've been doing work for the last few decades, making them millions and billions of dollars in these global organizations, how do I bring that type of knowledge and organization to small businesses? and without all the hierarchy and fluff that can get lost in corporate America sometimes. No offense, corporate listeners, but that can happen in there, and just bring them what works. And they don't really have those resources in small businesses. They typically have to learn that through trial and error, or they'll spend a lot of money to go to school and learn a bunch of things they don't really need, and only to find out there's a handful of them that they really can use. So that's where I kind of, found this niche and really stepped in and said, they need help in marketing. They need help in sales. They need help in operations. They need help in management and finance. And when they get big enough, they're going to need help with leadership and culture. And in those key areas, I started to develop out essentially what the breakthrough blueprint does and how they move through that as a process.
Okay. So the breakthrough blueprint and what you offer your clients is across several, I mean, it's very comprehensive.
Yes.
How do you communicate, or let me take a step back. What problem do you solve? And this is hard because it's different areas, but overarching, what problem do you solve for small business owners that makes them want to do the breakthrough blueprint program?
Yeah. And quite honestly, you hit the nail on the head. This is hard. It's hard to communicate all of that at one time. What I started looking for was what is that issue? What is that challenge that I'm solving for people? And that actually revealed my ideal client to me when I started looking at how I was doing that. A lot of my business owners, they either grew up in that world that they're in. These are, home service businesses a lot of times. And, I've got one that I use in my book, an example I use in my book. I've got permission to use this example. Had to change the names to protect the innocent, of course. But anyway, he was working in a flooring company, and essentially he was the go fetch it guy. He was the guy that ran to go get stuff all the time when his boss needed something. And doing that, you learn a lot. And he started to learn a lot, get really good at it. And before you know it, he's working nights and weekends doing side jobs. And then he's got his own business. Then he's got his own family. Then he's working nights and weekends and weekdays in his own business. And he's in this sort of prison of his own making kind of thing, right? And he's got challenges. He's got to figure out how to get his people to do what he needs them to do. He's got to figure out how to get new business in the door, although he doesn't actually want new business, because new business means he's got more work that he can't handle and he's going to disappoint more people. There's an enormous amount of challenges. And this is that business that finds themselves typically just over 7 figures. They're kind of like, hey, I made it. And then they realize that the next big hurdle is either 3 or 5 million, and they're trying to bust through that ceiling. And what I figured out, AJ, was that these people, they've got a plate, and it's not only full, they've got things falling off the side. So what I listen to when I'm talking to clients is I'm listening to them. Are they telling me that they don't have enough leads? And if they don't, then they have leads. Most of them have plenty of leads. They're just attracting the wrong people. In that case, we'll work on their messaging and dial that in. They may not need everything else just yet that I offer. Sometimes people are saying, my marketing's wrapped up. I know how to do that. I got more leads than I can handle. I've got great clients, this and that. I'm busting at the seams. I want to grow, but if I do, I'm going to have to take out a loan, and I don't know that I want to do that. Or, I don't know how to get to the next level, or I don't know where to hire and where to start first. Those people need the organizational help. So I'm listening to what they're saying, and we do a simple business assessment with them that ultimately reveals a lot. It's super simple. It's only about 25 questions or so, but in those 25 questions, we find out so many places that they've either got gaps, and that really tells us where to start. So long answer to the story, but a short answer is people may not need all of the breakthrough blueprint at one time. They may need parts and pieces of it, which is why then I broke it down into smaller components that can be compartmentalized. Some people need organizational help. Some people need commercial help. Some people need financial help.
Okay. And that's what you promote and market, is the smaller piece to generate leads. And then once you've generated a lead, then it sounds like you get them, the next step for them is a discovery call, or the diagnostic meeting with you.
Yeah, we'll do what we call a connection call or like a chemistry call. There's
Hmm.
and the one beautiful thing about being a consultant and coach is that we get to choose who we work with. And sometimes things they're just not a good fit. For one reason or another. It may be something that we offer that they don't need, or something that they need we don't offer, or it could just be a chemistry thing. So we'll do a quick call just to get to know each other and learn more about what the challenges are. And then from there, I would set a deeper investigative discovery call. We'll go through that business assessment. But for me, where I'm a little bit different is I often am like, what I do is I find myself working as a holistic coach and consultant. So I'm going to work with them on their business, but we all know if the business has challenges, the business owner has challenges. So I work with them on self leadership, people leadership, and then business mastery, those three areas.
Okay, great. Love it. What are the biggest challenges you faced to date, and how did you overcome them?
Ooh, that's a big question.
Yes, it is.
The biggest challenges that I have faced so far, one of them was really my first, like when I left corporate America and was doing this out on my own and trying to figure things out. Really, my first year in business was proving this is possible. Right. That's the first step was, is it possible? I'd never been an independent consultant or coach before, where I, didn't have a W-2 paycheck coming in at the same time. Um, I was working for a company at the time, and it was at the beginning of COVID when I actually left and went out on my own. I'd been doing it for years, but um, left and went on my own. And they had some downsizing going on due to some of the stuff that was happening with supply chain issues. And part of my job was to help them recognize where issues were. Unfortunately for me, I did a good job because that meant that they had to cut some folks. I happened to be one of the last in, so I was certainly one of the first out. And that moment, I knew that it was almost like, and it sounds very grim, but it was kind of a do or die situation. It was like, if I'm going to give this a go, then I need to make sure that I'm all in on this. And I'm a praying person, so I said my prayers and I got my answers, and ultimately sat down with my wife as well. And she said, it was so funny. Gosh, it was so funny. Looking back on it, it was funny. At the time, I was a little shocked. She said, "You want to do what?" And I was like, I said, "I think I want to give this a shot. I want to give it its due and see if I can make this work." She goes, and she did this kind of chopping motion. For those that are just listening, she did this chopping motion on her arm. She said, "I'm going to need to see that in PowerPoint." And I was like, okay. So one of my biggest challenges was proving it was possible on paper and putting the business plan together for it. It wasn't just going to be a, hey, I can do this kind of thing. It was really, putting my walking the talk, so to speak, putting my money where my mouth is. I put it down on paper. I looked at it, and that's one big moment that I was like, okay, I can do this. And I made a very conservative plan and said, hey, if I can find 10 clients in a year, then this is possible. And within 90 days, I had 10 clients.
Wow.
And I think it was, a lot of that was not because I'm an amazing person or anything like that, or had some magical marketing thing. I think I worked hard. I knew what to do. I had a plan. I kept my focus, but I proved it was possible in 90 days. And then the next biggest, you asked for a few, the next biggest challenge was dealing with what I now call the revenue roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
And it is when, and I ultimately, I teach people to overcome the revenue roller coaster now. So I had to go through it. Right. But, and that's when you have the feast or famine cycles of sales and delivery. And certainly as a consultant or a coach, anyone either, when I mention that, they go, just like you did, they go, I know that is. And if they don't yet, it's coming. But everybody knows that. And it's really not about selling more or delivering less. It's really about being smart with your, what I now call as a component in my breakthrough blueprint, is part of the profit power play. And it's how do we smooth out the revenue roller coaster, get a grip on our cash flow, and start to understand how to grow that. What's the right way to do that? So those are a couple of the biggest challenges that I had right in the beginning. Learned, overcame those, and said, okay, I went through that for a reason. Let me share that with people. How do I do that? So
Love it. Okay. How did you find those first 10 clients?
That is a great question. I had been working with a couple of people. I'd actually stopped all coaching for probably 6 months or so, and didn't take on any more clients for a while, given all the challenges I was going through in my corporate role at that time. So when I started, I really started from, ground zero, fresh. And after I had my business plan, I knew what I was offering. I knew what I wanted to help people do. I think those are two very clear components that you need to have. You need to know who you're going to help. You need to know what you're going to do for them. And I hit the phones, just old school. And I think so many people today we've gotten so much access via text message and DMs and emails and all that we forget how powerful picking up the phone and calling someone is. And I literally called, I made a list of people and called them and said, hey, I'm thinking of doing something. I want to reach out to you and talk to you and get your feedback on that. Naturally, you can imagine if I'm calling friends and people that I've known and I'm wanting their feedback, I got, if I called 25 people, I got 25 callbacks. Like it was pretty good. People wanted to help. So my key to that was not calling to sell them anything. My key was to honestly solicit feedback from them about what I was doing and ask if they would be willing to help. And they said, of course, what can I do? And I didn't give them an assignment. I didn't go tell them to do anything hard. I just said, be on the lookout for, and then listed the person with the issue that I was trying to solve. And at that point in time, it was people who are trying to grow their business and need some extra leadership support. It's very simple. And they said, okay. And that's as far as I took it at that point. The referral machine just started working. Like people started sending me, hey, well, you need to talk to this person. I got on the phone with them and had a good old fashioned conversation with people, just really curious about what their challenges were, what their aspirations were, what the gaps were, what they thought they needed help with, and then asked them if they would like some help with that. And that is where the 10 clients came from.
Okay. I think what's particularly important about what you just said is at the end, you ask them if you can help them. So it's very informational interview, but then at the end, you're very clear that you can provide support. I think that so often many self-employed consultants forget that last piece. They forget to ask for the order, or when it comes time to make the offer, they kind of choke on it, or all the negative thoughts go through their heads of, they're not going to buy, they're not going to pay that much, whatever, those negative self-doubt thoughts that are little negative monkey minds tend to throw up.
Those are so challenging too. And, the ones that I hear, like, cause I'll help some people. There's another project I work on where we help new and emerging coaches kind of get their business up and off the ground. But that's outside of my breakthrough blueprint, but a fun project to work on nonetheless. But a lot of times what I hear from new coaches and consultants when they're doing that is sometimes they're focused so much on getting the pitch out or getting the words right or this, that they actually just, oh man, I didn't ask for the business. And I know we've heard that before. You got to ask for the business, but it's real, quite honestly, it's real easy to let that slip, right? Because sometimes it's not the fun part. But I think making that just as easy as possible for people, it's no longer I'm selling to you kind of opportunity. It's really, hey, it sounds like you're on a journey and I'd love to be support for you along the way. Do you feel like you need help? Yeah, actually I do. Would you like my help? Yeah. What does that look like? It becomes a very natural conversation after that. And then the other thing that I hear people say is, you mentioned it just a second ago, was they start thinking they're not going to pay this, or they wouldn't do that, or their business isn't in a place for them to, invest in this or whatever. And I'm just going to tell your listeners and anybody else that that I come across with that is you are not qualified to make that decision for that person. That is their business and their business alone. Your job is to offer what you do and offer it at the value and get the value that you deserve to get based off the knowledge and support you're bringing, and let them decide if they can do that. That's their job. That's their part.
That's an important distinction, because we there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on in their heads that are making assumptions about that other person that we aren't qualified to make.
Agreed.
Yeah. So we were just talking a little bit about mindset.
Yeah.
As you reflect on your own journey, what were some of your biggest mindset obstacles and how did you overcome them?
Ooh. Yeah, some of my biggest mindset obstacles were trying to think back. Well, I probably don't have to go back too far. Like mindset is a challenge. It's something we got to work on every day, right? But I don't know. I think probably it was the fear mindset. There was in the beginning, I was making several decisions that I made about the business early on. I made out of fear. And we know when we make a decision that is born in fear, the outcome is going to just be terrible. Like just know that. That's the recipe for a terrible outcome.
Okay.
And for me, overcoming that, I think it was quite honestly learning through some of those in retrospect, spending a lot of time thinking about what did I do well, what did I do poorly, what would I like to do differently, how could I learn from this, and just taking on that really just sort of coaching myself mindset, which by the way, I think is a valuable asset and thing to do. I would not recommend doing that in isolation. Get a coach, even if you are a coach, get somebody to help you with that. If you're a consultant, you need an outside perspective. You will fool yourself. You will rationalize anything away. We are human beings and we will make emotionally based decisions and then we will rationalize it to prove we're okay. So just get a coach, somebody to help you. All right.
Okay.
But anyway, I'm a firm believer, no pun intended, in affirmations. I remind myself on a daily basis of who I truly am, like my North Star of who I am. There's probably 15 or 16 of these affirmations that I say to myself. I'll go on a walk with my dog. I'll say the affirmations to myself. I remind myself of that. And it's so funny because when I started doing that process, it's been a couple of years and I started now. I started doing that. All of a sudden, something would happen in my life and reaffirm the affirmation. And this may sound like a silly one, but just humor me here, and I'll share one of mine with you. No laughing at me, all of you that are listening out there. One of my affirmations is abundant money and resources are constantly flowing to me, and I receive and honor them. And reminding myself of that each day reminds me that it's not about me going and getting it. It's not about me pushing somebody for something. It's not about this. There's already more than enough on its way to me. My job is to pay attention and find out where I can be the best help. And then when those resources come in, put them to work in a good, honorable way. And when I do those things, the affirmation replays in my head. So when something happens, it replays and just confirms it for me. But that's a practice that I've done now for the last couple of years. Saying those things to myself each morning, 2 or 3 times a piece. And that's been really helpful to fortify my mindset.
Excellent. Love that. So moving on to a couple of things that we talked about when we talked earlier, when we had our chemistry call.
Yeah.
You tell us about your 13th week sabbatical.
Oh, yes. This is such a game changer. I probably need a better name for it because it doesn't sound real sexy rolling off the tongue. I know, but I got introduced to this from my business coach probably a year and a half ago now, and I said that sounds like a fantastic idea. So the idea is to work in a sort of a 12-week sprint, and then take the 13th week off. And from that, I mean off from working with clients. This is a time to work on yourself, to work on relationships that you've got, and to work on your business, and get it ready for the next sort of cycle of this. And it's really like running in these 90-day cycles. And Gino Wickman does this in Traction. He talks about the 90-day world in his book. It's really good. And there's the 12-week year that's out. A lot of it's real popular right now. Similar concept. But the point here is on taking a break from the day-to-day and really taking a step back. And we know as coaches and consultants that when we step back, we get a different perspective. We get a different vantage point, a different view, and we get different ideas about how to move forward. And every time that I do this, not only do I have a good time, I have some fun with it, but I also, my business ratchets up. Something that's been missing in my business gets addressed. A system that I've needed for a while gets identified and I get it in place. And I've got time to do it over the course of that week without having to feel like I'm rushing around to meet a client's needs or something like that. And my clients appreciate it too, by the way.
The 13th week sabbatical. Yeah, definitely.
The one thing about, I'll say this, the pushback I get, because I actually, it's part of an assignment that I give my clients as small business owners that they do this. And I get a lot of pushback. And it's, I don't have time and I can't afford that. And I said, this is why you are doing that. This is why you are doing this 13th week sabbatical. You are not taking care of, and I just released my book, and there's a chapter in there on something called the goose that lays the golden eggs. And ultimately, as business owners, that's us, right? So when I'm working and doing coaching and consulting with a business owner, I have to remind them that this 13th week sabbatical is really about taking care of the goose that lays the golden eggs. We've got to make sure we're working on ourselves, our relationships, and our business. So it's a three-pronged approach.
Okay. What is your process for identifying whether a prospective client is really ready for the transformation your coaching provides?
There, some people in different types of sales techniques, they'll say, "Oh, take it away from the client," and that kind of gets them in. I don't know if I necessarily subscribe to that, but I do. There's a point when I'm working with the client and I ask them, in your humble belief, just with what you know now, why is working with me important for you to do now? Mm-hmm. And when they can give an answer that, that demonstrates that they're going to have some skin in the game. They're not hiring me to fix their problem. They're hiring me to help them fix their own problem. When they can give an answer that comes along that way, and it's also, forthcoming and willing to do the work, then that's an indication for me. But that's a very important one that I learned. I can't remember who I learned that from, but it's like, why is that important for you to do now? And ultimately, why is it important for you to hire me to help you do this now? And let them be clear about it as we move forward.
What I love about the questions that you're talking about is that when you're in that conversation with your prospective client, you are not selling them. Essentially, you are asking questions that get them to sell by, hiring you. I mean, yes. You're helping them arrive at the conclusion that they need you without any hardcore sales on your part.
That's right. And it's even more fun when they're hiring me to help them get their sales organization in line, because they're like, I really do want this. I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, yes. Well, tell me why it's important for you now to have this. Well, I mean, I need this and I need this and I need this. And you said you have those. Okay, great. And at the end of it, I'm essentially like, by the way, we're going to teach you how to do that with your clients and teach your sales team how to do that with your clients. And they're like, this is exactly why we're doing this. So yeah, it's very fun.
Nice. You mentioned your book.
Yes.
And so you said it's just published?
Yes, as of the recording of our podcast, it is just published. By the time this comes out, it will have been out for a few months. So yeah, excited.
Okay. Tell me, it's called Connecting the Dots,
That's correct.
and it's about finding a clear path to freedom,
Clear path to profit. So
to profit. Okay.
yes,
Tell me
yes.
why you wrote the book. And you've already shared a wonderful key insight, but so tell me why you wrote the book and what you're going to do with it from here out.
Yeah. So this was part labor of love. Like just, I needed to get it out, get it down on paper, and have something that I knew was doing these things over and over again, and putting them in a book form helped me to really formalize the process and kind of bring a lot of that to light. So that was part of it. But I kept getting asked, do you have a book by my clients? Do you have some of this stuff written down somewhere? Do you have a book or something? And I was like, well, I'm actually working on one. And I was not really in earnest, but quite honestly. But to be honest, like part of this was really about like seeing the same things over and over again with these business owners and recognizing that if I do this right, I'm going to be able to support 10 to 15 people at a time, tops, before I expand my agency or what have you. But if I get this down on paper, then I can have a bigger impact, a bigger reach, and really share some of these core fundamentals that I saw so many small business owners missing on. And they're like the guy that I was talking about, the tile guy, right? I mean, they don't know how to run a business. They know how to do tile. Like that's it. And they need some of the very basics of this. What do I need to be looking at? What do I need to be working on? Where do I need to focus my energy? And this is one of those books that really does that. Not to give too much of it away, but I do talk about those three big components: self-leadership, people leadership, and then business mastery. So we talk about all three of those. And I personally believe that every business owner needs those three, need to focus on those three. And the approach that most people take, AJ, is they look for some sense of balance. And I'm using my hands for those of you who are listening. And I've got it out like a scale, like a legal scale. And if you think about the legal scale, right, if you go and put a pebble on the right side of it, then the left side's going to raise up. And that means if you want balance, you've got to go back and do something to the other side. And that means you've got to get it just right, or you're going to have to do that again. And balance without alignment equals maintenance. And that's really one of the big key undertones of the book. If you want true balance, you have to get alignment first. And that means if you try to run a business, but you're a wreck of a person, it's going to be a wreck of a business. If you try to run a business and you have a wreck of a relationship, it's going to be a wreck of a business. So you've got to start with the self-leadership. What are the disciplines that you have to make yourself run like a business? What are the disciplines that you have to run and handle your responsibilities in a relationship? Make sure that you're doing the things that fulfill you and you get enjoyment out of, but you're also being a good partner. And then the third piece is, now that you've got those, the overflow from good self-leadership and people leadership and relationships is that you can also operate a great business. And all of that is in the book. So those three keys tied together, really.
Is the book on Amazon?
It is on Amazon. So
Okay.
it is.
I'm going to put the link in the show notes, the link to Amazon. Or is there another link? Where can, now that you've gotten people interested in this book, where can they buy it?
They can buy it from Amazon. It's probably the best place to do that. If you come to my website, I will guide you to Amazon to get there. So might as well go to Amazon if you're looking for the book. But I've also got some goodies and resources at my website for you too.
Cool. And we'll put the website in the show notes and the
Yes.
YouTube description as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Starting to wrap up, what's the next big thing for you and your company?
Okay. The next big thing for me and my company is we hit that point. It's time to expand. And that is a very big, scary hurdle to jump over. I hired my first employee last year, and I fully recommend, if you're ever going to hire someone before you need them, hire an executive assistant, because you probably needed one before you got started in your business. As a consultant, I'm telling you right now, just, If you need some advice on that or whatever, I'm free anytime. I'm glad to share that with you. You can also get a ton of advice from Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time. He's got some really good tactics in there. Most of those I believe that I would endorse and believe in. But this coming year, we're going to hire our first junior coach and consultant. And that's, mapping that. I'm thinking about it. The mapping, it's a very scary thing to do. But we're going to do that this year, and we're going to replicate that process over the course of the next couple of years, and hopefully expand to our 5-year vision within the 5 years. That's the idea.
Okay. And what is the 5-year vision?
The 5-year vision is having that agency model. I know that's kind of buzzwordy these days, but having that agency model where, we've got 3 to 4 junior coaches. We've got some support people in the office. We've got people in that. My vision is we've got people that are fantastic at delivering on-site intensives and workshops. We've got people that are great at longer term engagements, sort of sprints and those kind of things. And we've also got people that are doing great business coaching and working with these small business owners. And my job at that point in time, I love what I do working with my clients. So I don't foresee, I honestly don't foresee a future where I don't do that. I may just be able to trim down the roster and go deeper with those clients and do some other cool things with that. So that's really the idea. Just the joy of being able to help businesses create more profit and wealth for themselves while they're impacting their clients, and doing a team of people that work with me in my company that can also do that. I just think that's just going to be awesome. So looking forward to it.
Okay. You mentioned a couple books.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Martell.
Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time, is a great
Okay.
one around delegation and creating some freedom for you as a business owner, especially as a consultant or coach. That's going to be powerful, very powerful.
Then you also mentioned Gino Wickman.
Gino Wickman's Traction. He is the author of EOS, or Entrepreneurial Operating Systems.
Yeah, I knew that name sounded familiar. Yeah. Okay.
And so Traction is a great book. It's kind of like it's like the practical steps that we're missing from some of the other books. So it's kind of like, here's the plan. Here's how to do a 10-year vision with people. Here's how to operate things on a 90-day world kind of thing. So he gives some really practical, good tips in there. Awesome book. You can also find out more on both of those resources website. I think EOS, you can become an EOS consultant. That's totally up to you, but they do an awesome business there. So fully recommend that.
Okay, great. Last question.
Yes.
Another hard one because it requires you to focus on one thing.
Okay.
What is the one piece of advice you would give self-employed consultants who are not where they want to be? Financially, well-being wise, fulfilling wise. One piece of advice.
Get a business coach. Absolutely. I thought about it way too long and finally pulled the trigger on it, and began to move very rapidly in my business. You need an outside perspective. You need someone that's not a family member. You need someone that's not a friend. You need someone that will tell you what no one else will tell you and show you what you cannot see yourself. You need that in your life. It is absolutely worth the money. And I would also tell you that regardless of what they charge, you should be looking to get at least a 5 to 10x return on your investment from working with those people. And if anybody's been in business long enough as a business coach, they will absolutely be able to do that and demonstrate that to you.
Wonderful. Well, that's a wrap on today's episode. We could go for another hour, but want to limit that. So thank you, Ryan, so much for being on the Thriving Through podcast today. I really appreciate it. What a fantastic conversation with Ryan McKinney. The key takeaway I want you to remember is that transformation in your consulting practice comes from stepping back regularly to work on your business, not just in it. Ryan's 13th week sabbatical concept is a game changer for consultants who are looking to avoid burnout while consistently growing their practice. By the way, Ryan is offering the Business Growth Playbook to Thriving Through Podcast viewers for free. The playbook covers the 25 things all businesses should be doing to scale wisely, but probably aren't. The link is in the show notes. If you liked this episode, subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and please leave a review on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. And until next time, keep thriving through.